Oh, I think we're definitely on more recorded, sort of not in person episodes now. This is episode 14, which is past 13. And yeah, we're back again with Ben. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Um, what have you been up to this week? I've only given you a bit of like pointless content. I don't think we've actually talked about life at all. I don't know what you've been up to.
No, we haven't. We've just had general crap chat for the week, haven't we?
Yeah, as per.
What have I done this week? Pretty much much of the same. I've for some reason massively upped the workout stakes this week, Monday
Really?
to Friday. Yeah, they were this week's been tough. So
Do you
big
do
recovery days today.
Do you do them in the club or in the flat?
I
I just go into the club and just do it on the floor or something.
can't go in, can I? It's closed.
Oh yeah. Even if you did go in, you wouldn't tell me.
Well, I mean, if I was to do that, I certainly wouldn't be broadcasting it. But no,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Okay.
In the park, do quite a lot of stuff in the park. I've been doing quite a lot of workouts that like incorporate like little 400-meter runs or like ever increasing runs and stuff with
Oh,
like
that's cool.
stuff in between. Yeah, get out and about in the sun. Obviously, it's essential. Essential usage.
Oh mate, yeah. I couldn't care less if you're going out 3 times a day. I mean, I just don't care.
But yeah, it's been a very tough one. Lewis Gordon decided to have his like Apple Watch on, which records everything. So he was like keeping us updated with the like during the workouts on like what his calorie content was at. So I think we did like over 1,000 calories every day this week.
That's so good. That means you can eat like 5 donuts every day.
Yeah, for breakfast. Yeah,
Yeah, that's ideal. And then again, your body doesn't stop burning once you finish the workout, as we all know.
exactly.
So
It's not just dead stop after that. So yeah,
that's
it's been a
perfect.
tough one. So today's going to be. I've already had like a first little stretch, feeling better for that. I'm just going to chill out and sit in this baking hot flat and try to sort. I've got a big tub of ice cream that needs going actually. So
Yeah,
that's
I thought
that's
we'd have
today's plan.
Mate, you love ice cream.
Yeah.
I remember. So you remember you had that back thing when we were in Australia? Is your back like healed now from all the stretching? Long
Do you
term.
know, it's actually got a bit worse again in the last week. So,
I mean, yeah. Oh, it sounds brutal, but doesn't really matter
no,
for tournaments. I
well,
mean,
no, except for like general discomfort. But
no.
that's fine. Like it goes in and out. So when when it feels a bit bad, it's just I know it's just a warning basically. So I know what I need to do is try and fix it. It's just a bit dull.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a bit dull. What have you been up to?
I finished all my uni work this week, which is cool.
Congratulations.
Some eBay stuff came, so I got a Ralph long sleeve Ralph t-shirt, Fred Perry jumper. I've got another Ralph in the post, which will come on Monday, and I've also obviously I told you yesterday, and it's really annoyed you. I'm going
It
for
hasn't annoyed me at all. I just can't wait to hear what the general opinion on it is. It
well,
hasn't annoyed me at all. I just find it hilarious that you think it's cool.
obviously one of my main characteristics on my wrist is my wristbands, e.g. like my Ibiza, my Kavos wristband, that wristband from the Eureka Tower in Melbourne. I've still got that on.
Love it.
But these wristbands are getting discarded. They're getting put in a box or in my real tennis bag. I'm going to start wearing a necklace, a chain, because I think that's going to be my new development, leaving uni, becoming a man. So we'll see how that one pans out.
I mean, it's interesting you say like leaving uni and becoming a man because
Yeah.
basically what's actually happening is you're leaving uni and then like teleporting to 1995.
Yeah, fair. Maybe I'll, I don't know. Yeah,
Everybody needs to go through something tragic at some point. I guess 23 is not a bad time to do it.
honestly, I'll be 26 by the time we get out of this. So it's like being in like frozen in time.
It would have come and gone by the time we're allowed out.
Yeah, I know. Tell the worst 20s of my life. But that's about it. And then I think I might go for a run today. I did a 4K runner. I just got too tired at 4K. I wanted to do 5, but running is so hard 'cause it's just like, well, what's really the end goal? I mean, you just sort of
There
run.
isn't.
You
There
just
isn't
you just.
one.
That's genuine. I got to 4K and was like, what am I doing?
Why am I doing this?
Why am I putting myself through another 1,000 meters of pain for nothing? I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna walk home. I'm tired.
I mean, I think we can all agree that running sucks.
Oh my god, it's so bad. It's so bad.
It's just awful.
I hate it. But one of them. It's been a good week and it's sunny today, and so we've still got 2 more days left of the weekend.
Did you get up to much in VE Day yesterday?
Did absolutely nothing. Just read, just listened to a podcast on fitness in the garden. But I'm actually going to be in my dad's office next week, so I'll be working on your accounts. That'll be fun.
Oh, perfect. Don't be afraid to fiddle him.
Fucking hell, that much on personal training.
Yeah, you'd imagine that you'd be fit for that amount of money.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Get your money back. Definitely claim the tax back. Right, well, enough of this. Today's going to be a cool one. It's going to be a little two-parter. It's going to be... Right, so I want you, on the title of this episode, to put part 1. Is that all right?
Of course.
It's going to be tournament prep, part 1.
Okay.
And so this bit is actually going to be sort of preparation for actually going to a tournament. And that tournament, it's obviously not going to be one in England because that's just doesn't really count. So it's going to be the US Pro. So I've obviously never been to it. I've never been to Newport. How are you preparing for the US Pro in June 2021? Please be on.
Well, exactly. Blimey, please be on. Well, I'm still prepped for the 2021. I've got my flights booked, so I'm hoping that British Airways cancel that so I can get my money back. Obviously, if I have to cancel it, I don't get my money.
Mate, can you imagine if that flight still goes? Oh my god, that would be fucking carnage. Like.
Well, I can't imagine that you could fly into America right now. So if it's going, I might. If the club's not open, which it won't, I can't imagine it's going to be in the next 3 weeks. I might just go. Just go to Boston. I've got my flights booked.
To be fair,
I'll just tell them I'm seeing family or something.
Wouldn't be a bad idea. Getting back in England would be harder, but no, it wouldn't actually.
True.
No, it wouldn't.
Well, you'd think an English passport might help, but who knows?
Well, there we
anyway,
go. How are we preparing?
Obviously, the thing was so with the Newport, depending on who you are, if you're somebody like Chris Chapman or Darren Long or Bryn or somebody, you're booking your flights now for next May.
Yeah.
If you're me, you just kind of get around to it. Although I actually got much better at booking flights early because someone like a Darren, not Chappers anymore because he's obviously in Australia, but Darren will be like, should we look at flights for this? And I'm just like, go on then.
Is Daz organised with stuff like that?
No, he just loves his.
Just cheap. Are you just trying to say he's cheap?
Exactly. It's just money, isn't it?
Fair
not
enough.
Not in a critical way. Like he's looking early to try and get the cheapest available thing. That's not a problem. No. So obviously book flights. The big thing with flights is like not arriving too early. Like one of the big mistakes I made in like years gone by when I was kind of like a lot younger was you kind of turn up 4 or 5 days before like the first match potentially and think, right, I'll just use all this time to like acclimatise and get loads of practice in and stuff like that. And ultimately, by the time it's like day 1 of match day, you're like, I'm pretty bored.
Yeah.
Because as we spoke about like life on tour and stuff, and we had Josh on the podcast, apart from like when you wake up in the morning, the only thing you have to achieve and like the only box to tick that day is to do your practice.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Which is 2 hours. Like that's the only thing you've got to do. So actually, when people kind of say like about having to work and stuff like that, so like when the British Open's on, it's actually a bit easier because I can kind of nip back and like do a bit of work and stuff like that, and you've got things to like occupy anyway, whereas if you anyway, we'll talk about flights for an hour, blimey, but yeah, trying to find like the optimum amount of time before you play your first round match, like when to fly is like quite critical. I think some people have made a few errors in the past flying out too early. Some people kind of chance it and fly a bit late and kind of bank on a good draw, which is fine. But if you don't get that good draw, then that's potentially bad preparation.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
In terms of like accommodation, I'm very, very lucky. I got very generously put up by a family the first time I ever went there, and obviously didn't completely ruin the place because they said that they'd be happy to host me again. So the US Pro specifically, I don't actually speak to like the guys in the pro shop about accommodation. I just contact this family directly. Like we're in contact through the year anyway.
That's really nice.
Which is great. So if they come over to the UK, then we try and catch up and stuff. So I just contact them and let them know that I'm coming over and is it possible, and they were always very generously happy to have me, which is great. So
your accommodation's sorted, no need for a hotel?
Well, there's not many hotels in Newport. Because we're using this as a specific.
No, I like it. I like
specific
it.
tournament.
Yeah.
So yeah, once you've got your flights and accommodation done, you're kind of like, right, that's a bit of a stress off. You know, you've got somewhere to stay and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're going over to the US, you need to make sure you've got a valid ESTA.
Yes, they run
travel.
out every 2 years, don't they?
They run out every 2 years. I have made the mistake once of turning up for an Australia flight, and I just hadn't done my visa, just completely forgot. And it happened to be quite a funny story, actually. It happened to be a few years ago when, for some reason, like the Australian Open these days, they seem more and more intent on putting it like the 2nd of January or something.
Yeah, that's so bad.
Weird timing. So I actually, like, one of the big things I have with at home is that, like, I always try and be around for New Year.
Yeah.
So I generally fly out to Australia, like, not later than I would do for other tournaments, but, you know, I'm always make sure I'm around for New Year if I can. So on this occasion, I did New Year's Eve. I got to bed at about 3 a.m. I was up at 4:30 for a taxi from Essex to Heathrow.
Oh my days! Why don't you fly from Stansted? Was it just not going?
You can't fly from Stansted to Australia. Blimey.
Okay, fair. Sorry.
Stansted's a very small airport. Anyway,
Yeah.
So I got this cab to the airport, and I was sitting in the cab thinking, okay, I'm a bit tired, but like hangover-wise, I could be considerably worse right now. Like this could be a lot worse.
You think you escaped, and then it gets to 2 o'clock. Like, oh no, I haven't.
Mate, I got out of the cab, walked into the airport, and obviously was just greeted by loads of people and bright lights. And literally, I walked in and was like,
That's the police station.
I was like, the reason why I don't feel hungover is because I'm still absolutely hammered. Great. So I was walking through Heathrow, and I got to the desk, and the lady at the check-in desk was like, "Can I see your Australian passport, please?" And I was like, "I haven't got one of those." She's like, "Oh, okay. Can I see your visa then?" I was like your work visa. I was like, I haven't got one of those either. She goes, why are you travelling? And I was like, I'm going on holiday. And she's like, you haven't got a visa? And I was like,
oh yeah.
Shit.
Sorry.
How long does that take to get approved? And she's like, about 6 hours. I'm like, right. Any chance we could fast track one? She's like, well, I might be able to get one within like 3 hours. And I was like, well, we both know that I'm flying in 2.5. So, you know, what can we do? And anyway, like, I managed to get an emergency visa, which was funny. Obviously, cost me a bit of money, but so basically, moral of the story there: don't turn up drunk. Get your visa done early. Anyway, that's all the kind of boring stuff that needs to be done. But the real nitty gritty of it is what I tend to do is once I've decided what day I'm going to fly, I try and preempt. The US Pro is actually very, very good because you can pretty much preempt when you're going to play. Like for me, I know I'm going to get a bye.
I'd love that, to be honest.
Well, so even if you don't get a bye, you know that you're playing on like the Sunday or the Monday.
Yeah, true.
I know that I am getting a bye, so I'm playing on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. So,
ideal.
I will try and I know that like Sunday, Monday is going to be busy for like satellite matches. So I might try and I'll try and book a couple of practice courts ahead of time for like the morning, like an early morning, because the court won't be available during the day. And obviously that, you know, if you've got like 2 hours that you can potentially practice, and there's a lot of people trying to do it. So I try and get my practice course in as early as possible. Mike Gooding loves it. He always tells me I'm a pain. I don't really see how I'm a pain for being like organised and trying to get my course in early, but you know, each to their own.
It's because you nibble a lot. You've just nibbled there.
That's fine. I don't care as long as I get my course. I don't care.
Fair.
And then it's all about kind of thinking, right, who am I going to try and practice with? That's crucial.
Yeah,
like
interesting.
Some people you kind of naturally enjoy practicing with a bit more, or you get a bit more out of it, or like the styles of play complement each other, or the certain drills you want to do.
If you want to do cross courts, you know the man.
No, a couple of men, but yeah, there's that's choosing who you're going to practice with and trying to make contact and trying to get in early and make sure you've got the right guys there around you. So that's all pretty good kind of prep. So when you land, you're kind of like, right, I know where my courts are. At this point, you've obviously seen the draw, so you might be able to tweak your practice around who you're playing or something like that. but like I think one of the big things you can do, which I think a lot of people underestimate before you go, is you can start to practice like in two different ways. So the first thing you can do is once you see the draw, you can kind of go, right, I'm going to be playing this person first, so I can start to like implement a few drills and a style of play and practice that lend itself to part of your game plan for that person, which obviously we'll come on to.
We will.
So that when you get out there, you're like, right, I know exactly how I'm going to play this match, and I've practiced this kind of style, so it's it's kind of muscle memory is there. The other thing, which I don't think people probably do enough of, is so Newport is quite a fast court. It kind of cuts down like a lot if you kind of put the ball in there. So for me, like at Leamington, for example, which is quite slow and quite bouncy, it's not that similar to Newport. So what I will probably do for the last couple of hits, if I can, if things work that way, I will try and get like a couple of hits over at Morton Moral like the week before I go.
That's really cool. Cool
because it's quicker and it cuts down a bit more, and it's it just kind of dials my brain into having to read a bit faster around the corners and stuff like that. So when you get out there, it's less of a surprise.
So to sum all that up, I think because you've made a really interesting point there, which obviously, which a lot of people won't realise, is obviously when people go to a tournament, it's not just a case of, it's not just the matches. Obviously, there are practice courts before it, and I think we're all guilty of when maybe we have a tournament on another court of just going through the motions and doing like normal practice stuff. Whereas you've got to think, obviously, it's different. You might serve some different stuff. You might actually need to play differently depending on who you're playing. So I think anyone of any level can sort of take that on board. It filters down throughout the levels. If you ever do have a practice court, let's say before a weekend tournament, if you're in on the Friday or something, do have a think maybe about how you're going to play. Because it'll make a big difference.
You can start preparing for a tournament as early as you want to.
Yeah.
Right? So you might turn around and go, okay, US Pro, you can kind of go, right, this is coming up, it's 4 weeks away, I'm going to start practicing my railroad.
Oh, hello.
It's like, it's a good serve on that court. I'm going to start practicing that. So when I get out there, I'll have to adjust how I hit it because of the dimensions of the court, but things like that, you can get that. You can start doing that kind of stuff as early as you like, and then when you get out there, hopefully you've kind of gone, right. I know who I'm practicing with. I know what my times are. I know who I'm playing. I know how I want to practice. What kind of drills I want to do, and then really you're out there with the other guy and kind of like, right. How much? What do you want to get out of it? This is what I want to get out of it, and trying to strike a balance really. And
it was really cool actually at Hampton Court last summer when obviously you randomised practicing. You could be practicing with anyone, and it's like you said to me, just do like a basket across courts, and then what was it again? It was like
just to get used to the court.
Yeah, it was a specific thing you said though, because we had like an hour and 15 or an hour and a half to practice, and it was you just said like do this. And it wasn't just like do a few baskets down the middle. It was let's do straight away cross courts or something. But it was a good way of doing it, basically cutting out wasted time.
Depending on how much time you've got. So like at a US Pro level, you've got a few days. You might turn around and say something like, right, for the first hour, you might just do cross courts a few times.
Depends how early you're there, I suppose. You could literally just take the piss in the first.
Depends on how many hours you've got of practice, basically. But when you've got that. That Champions Trophy hour and a half that you had, and then you play the next day, you go, right, I need to really get a lot out of this. So instead of doing like a full basket of cross courts from each corner of the court, which is going to take a long time, you might kind of do, right, let's just do half. That frees up, double the amount of time. Get some serves in, get some returns in, and that's why National League is always
savage.
A brutal format. You get half an hour, and you kind of think, well, what's the point? You may as well just go in raw and just say, "Can I have a long warm up?"
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying there's a really easy solution to that, and it's part of obviously the playing away bit. But that's also like a good test. If you've got half an hour to try and pick the court up and identify a few things, that's where making a few mental notes when you play somewhere and keeping them in the bank, so that when you get to Hampton Court, for example, you don't have much practice time, you can kind of go, right, actually, I remember like this happens, or this is quite good, and you can just automatically like tune your brain in, and that saves you a lot of like figuring out time as well.
Yeah, that's part of the game, isn't it? Figuring it out. So right, where are we? So you've got your practice court. Is there anything else maybe you need to what are we packing in your bag? Because obviously a lot. I remember Darren told me once, he was like, think about, work backwards what you definitely need. He was like, rackets, shoes, just pack them first. And I was like, yeah, this is actually really
Exactly.
helpful.
So what I do now, I've got a terrible memory. So I will make 2 lists. So I'll make a list of like tennis based stuff, and then just a list of like stuff from home, like chargers, deodorant, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And ultimately, once you've like packed it all, you always kind of think, oh God, have I got everything? And exactly that. My thought process is exactly the same as Darren's. Do you know what? And I think I've said it to you before.
Yeah.
As long as my rackets are in there and my shoes, which
Mate.
are very personable, as long as my rackets and shoes are in there, I can buy everything else.
Mate, Chappers said that to me in 2015 once. He was like,
Yeah.
all I ever check is shoes and rackets because you can borrow everything else. I was like, that's actually so true. It hasn't, and I think in 3 years of practicing with you, I've forgotten my rackets once, and I had to drive back for them once, and I was like, how the fuck have you managed that? And I've somehow managed. I was somehow practicing with you, and I've never forgotten my shoes, and I like, and I don't know how I've never done it.
Well, but it's like rackets are obviously very personable, because like grip size is going to be something to do with it, and you're going to be used to the tension, all that kind of stuff. And I know it sounds really, really weird, but like you obviously have like lots of different rackets. But like when I moved back to Grays recently, and my rackets are now white, like for the first 5 or 10 minutes, or the first 5 or 10 minutes of the first few hits, you're kind of waving this thing around, and it sticks out in your line of vision because it's white. Do you know what I mean?
Wow, that's quite cool. Well, not cool. It's obviously weirder when it's like you're holding something different.
Like if somebody gave me a red racket, if somebody gave me any racket now, it would feel quite weird. But if you're using a certain colour and then randomly you've got another one, anyway, that's all a bit random. But yeah, as long as your rackets are very personal, and shoes definitely, because of the way they fit and things like that.
Mate, yeah, you need shoes.
So as long as those things are in the bag, don't really care. But I try and make sure I've got all bases covered. So I always kind of go, right, rackets, shoes. No, I work with like equipment first. So I go rackets, string, grips. I take my own winder. That's so underrated when you're trying to string rackets.
I thought you were about to say I take my own winder, and I was like, oh, fair enough.
Tubing, so all racket stringing stuff, and then I've like some grips. So then I'm like, right, my rackets are fine. Kit wise, just like right, shoes definitely, and then I'm like, right, boxers, socks, shirts, shorts. Do I need anything else? Where am I playing? I'm playing at Newport, so no, I don't need any jumpers or.
No, it's a great point. Great point.
Or anything like that. That's a waste of space. And then I'll kind of look at other stuff and go, right, what might I need if my body decides to give up? So some KT tape, like a hockey ball for like foam rolling and stuff like that. The resistance band.
The roids.
Just to make the roids. Never forget the roids.
Yeah, never.
And don't try and take them in hand luggage because they'll just get kicked out. So
yeah, perfect.
Pack that stuff in deep. That kind of stuff. Really, just make sure you've got. Effectively, what you're trying to create here, you're trying to create a situation where you've got all of the stuff that you would have at home, but you're just not at home.
Good way of thinking about it, yeah. I like that.
You want to have access to everything you've got.
At home, yeah.
You want to try and make everything as familiar as possible.
Yeah. What about non sort of kit stuff? So like, obviously you've got social functions to go to in Newport. What other gear are you thinking I'm going to need?
Newport's actually very easy
because obviously
the functions are all very similar.
This can be helpful if you're ever going on a night out somewhere. I mean, what sort of stuff are you bringing for non-tennis stuff, Ben?
For Newport?
Yeah.
Newport's very easy. The functions are all very similar. They're all very smart. Okay. So I'm going to take my suit for like the tournament dinner.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take probably like 2 pairs of chinos, a couple of shirts, 2 or 3 different ties, and 2 pairs of shoes. So I can mix and match that for like all of the or 1 pair of smart shoes. To be honest, you can mix and match that for all of the functions. that's them ticked. So they are like the obligations of the event.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're free to just pack whatever you want after that.
Yeah, fair.
String vest, G-strings, the lot.
Vest, yeah, vest is key. Chain, necklace.
Never forget the chain.
So that's quite cool. So obviously preparing for a tournament, and we're going to go into next week's episode. We're going to go into like game plans. So actually, what you're going to do when you come to the match. This is why it's going to be a two-parter. But obviously, when you're preparing for a tournament, it's probably not as you're not bringing like a team with you, like a masser, a physio, a coach. It's not like the lawn tennis guys, obviously. It is basically just it's quite simple, I guess. There's nothing really that revolutionary, which you're sort of.
Well, I mean, it depends what you want to do when you get out there. So, like Newport, for me specifically, because it's quite a spread out place, I always hire a car.
Yeah. Again, this is. I'm sure we'd forgotten something. Yeah, hiring a car is good.
For that tournament in particular, because you fly into Boston, you've got an hour and a half drive, or you've got the bus, which is easy, but obviously the schedule's dictated to you. And then Newport's quite spread out, so I kind of think if I've got the car, I've got no stress in terms of getting around. I'm not relying on lifts. I don't have to have like 40-minute walks to get in. What if it's a really hot day for my match and I've got a 40-minute walk? I don't want to do that.
Mate, as a 35-year-old, you're actually rich in life experience.
Well, after 35 years, you'd hope so, right?
Yeah, I know, mate. I've never hired a car. I've never even driven a car on a foreign road. It's like.
Do you know what though? It's one of those things like you just learn from getting it wrong.
But yeah, there's no such thing as the losses there. It's only a learning opportunity.
So like the amount of times you've kind of gone to places and you're like, God, I'm just trapped and I'm waiting on lifts, and you just think, do you know what? So Chappers and I normally pitch in for a car 50-50 at half the price. It's just like for like 200 quid or whatever to just have no limitations on where to go.
Yeah, that is good.
How to get around. For me, that's like good value. And also, when you get there, drive from Boston straight to the supermarket, pick up some essentials that you want, because otherwise you can easily just spend money. Eating out 3 times a day is expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure Darren wouldn't want to do that.
So like supermarket run, get the things, the essential stuff that you want to make.
Go on, give me 5 things which you'll always get from the supermarket. I mean, I know the answer to this, but obviously the listeners, and like we've got so many subscribers at the moment.
Do you know the answers to this?
Well, no, I was there in Australia. Like, there's always stuff which you like love to buy. Like, you're always going to buy avocados, for example. You're always going to buy like oat milk.
But do you know what? Breakfast is the tough one for me, because in particular for the US Pro, because American breakfast I could eat for every single meal of the day.
Really?
Yeah, I love it. So
food is good. Food's good, to be fair.
Absolutely love it. So breakfast is a bit of an interesting one, because in theory I could make breakfast at home and it's cheaper, but I can also just go out and just have like a lovely bacon and like broccoli omelette or something.
Yeah, there's no fun in that though, is there? You gotta live a little.
Stuff like that. So okay, right, go on then. So you give me 5 essentials that you think I would pick up from a supermarket.
Avocado for sure. Eggs, smoked salmon.
So that's what I mean. That's breakfast sorted, unless I'm choosing to go out.
What else? Oh, a protein bar. A protein bar.
Always good to have a few snacks at hand.
Just a protein bar.
Just one.
Yeah, just one. You'll get and I think if I was to choose one more thing which you'd always get, it'd be a tub of peanut butter and salted caramel ice cream.
Not both.
Oh right, not both. Sorry.
Not both in the same tub.
Oh, fair play. Well,
well, do you know what the beauty about like a company like Halo Top is? I can now just eat as much ice as I want, guilt free.
Really?
It's like 320 calories for the whole tub, rather than like.
Oh yeah, no. Aldi are doing that reduced that like protein ice cream as well. It's sick. Very good.
But it's not protein. It's just not made with. I don't know how they do it. I do not. I mean, it's probably not actually technically ice cream. I don't know what it is.
So if you are at a supermarket, obviously there's plenty of stuff you'd buy. But I feel
sparkling water. I'd definitely be buying some San Pellegrino.
Yeah, you don't want to be eating out constantly. I think that's just unsustainable. I think it's quite good to have autonomy over what you're eating.
And you know what? Depends on what you've got on. So like, if I'm flying in on like Saturday and I'm not playing until the Tuesday or the Wednesday, if people are like, oh, do you want to go out for dinner? And it's Sunday or whatever, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't mind doing that because I don't mind what time I go to bed necessarily, and it's not like I've got a big match the next day, so I really need to think about making sure I'm not eating too much trash. But one of the big things with like America as well is, which we haven't mentioned, is like the time zone.
Yeah, +5.
-5.
-5. Yeah,
If you're like, if you just kind of get in there and give in to jet lag and just fall asleep when you want to fall asleep, that can make such a difference to when you're playing.
Yeah.
Like absolutely savage. So like the first few nights there are always absolutely brutal. It gets to like 7 p.m. and you're just desperate to fall asleep, and you're just like, I have to pull through.
I remember in Australia that first night, and I just remember it got to about 8 o'clock, and I was like, this is like the worst feeling I've ever felt. I just thought I was gonna die. Like I was like, I can't even stay awake, Ben. And
it's horrible.
Oh my God!
Why am I putting myself through this? I could just go to bed.
Oh God, it's like the worst hangover of your life.
It's so worth it. So like those first few nights, because I know I'm not playing the next day, and I've just got practice. I will try and get out and about and have dinner with like a couple of people or a group of people or something, just to keep you out of the house.
Yeah, this is where
like, force you to like get home at like 10, 10:30, and then you're like, if I crash now, that's fine. Yeah. But if you're sitting at home and you have dinner at like 7, and then you sit down in front of Netflix at 7:30, you are asleep at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, this is where your years of experience come in handy.
I just have to battle through it, and it's sometimes it's just absolutely miserable, but it does mean that it's much easier to get those early morning practices in, because you wake up at like 6 a.m. bright as a button, ready to go. So at 7 o'clock, you're like, yeah, I'm fully ready for this. Let's go.
Yeah, so true. But yeah, in conclusion, so we can wrap this topic up, which I think is a really useful and informative topic. What would you advise people? Just like 2 points, like maybe when you're preparing for a tournament before you even get there. What things would you advise? Just a general things.
In terms of, so I'm gonna split that into two. So I'm gonna say, from a tennis perspective, I'm gonna say, think of the court that you're playing on and practice stuff that will suit that court, even if it's not necessarily working on the court that you play on all the time.
Yeah.
Or even better, try and get on a court which plays quite similarly to the one that you're about to play on for a tournament. And if you don't know what those characteristics are because you've never played there, ask one of the pros at your club, or ask one of us or something. Just be like, Ben, why does Newport play or whatever? I'll go and play on these courts there.
Yeah, that's true.
Similar enough that it's gonna get you in the right frame of mind. So that would be number one. And then number two, just make sure, from a kind of like a organisational perspective, you're never going to forget to book flights and stuff like that. But I'd say the packing, like the packing side of it, make sure you've got the things that you would really struggle to have to borrow, like shoes and rackets.
Yeah,
you can borrow them, or buy them, but who wants to be like walking into a 5-set match in like 89% humidity with brand new shoes on? You are going to rip your feet to shreds.
You can even borrow money if you really need to. You don't even need to remember that. But that, exactly. And I think that's really a good insight, actually, in what goes into you guys going to a tournament. Because obviously you rock up, you're on court, you're on the stream, you make it look easy. But obviously we're all human, right? We don't have agents. Well, not we, it's not me, but you don't have an agent booking all these things for you. And I was listening to the Peter Crouch podcast, and he said some footballers won't have an email account. They just won't know how to do anything. They'll just get their agents to do it all for them.
Be told, they won't even be told where to be, because they'll just be said, like, we're picking you up at this time.
It's like, book me a table at a restaurant, blah blah. Do all this for me, and they live in this bubble. Whereas obviously in reelers, it's very much you do it yourself, but no one really understands. Obviously, I rely on my dad for a lot of stuff, but
the funny thing is, if I turned round to you and I went, book me a table for 8 at this restaurant,
I'd probably still struggle.
You'd probably go, yeah, okay, Ben, no worries. But like, if someone asked me, said that to me, I'd be like, what can't you do yourself? If they were doing it because they were like trying to be a bit of a prima donna like that, they would be greeted with some choice words.
Nah, yeah, I'm sure I'd be able to manage it, but it'd be a struggle. But yeah, no. So the one thing I will leave you with regard to organisation. So do you remember when Balotelli let those fireworks off in his house that time?
Oh God, where's that come from?
No,
But
no, no.
yes,
There's a
yes, I
point to
do.
this. So
I'm sure
basically,
there is.
so rather than calling like the fire brigade, the first person he called was his agent.
Love that.
He was like, yeah, he was like, what should I do? So obviously, look, footballers have got it easy. They never have to book anything. They never have to worry about what's in their bag. It just gets packed
But I
for
mean,
them.
that's so strange, isn't it? Because if something like that happens, okay, and right, if you're 20 years old and you set a firework off and you see a fire, surely the upbringing that you've been given, your first thought process would be fire brigade. Surely.
Mate, you got to ring your agent. What? How are we going to release this to the
Surely.
press?
Well, I mean, I would understand if it was like, right, fire, like 999, fire please, this has happened. Then phone your agent and literally be like, guess what? I've done it again. Like I've done something stupid again.
Okay, Mario. But yeah,
Why always me?
that's why he never went to the US Pro. Um, But
Exactly.
yeah, well, that was a cool topic, and next week we're going to talk about game plans, aren't we? And I think that's the thing a lot of people don't necessarily might not necessarily been taught, which is really interesting, which I think certainly helped me in playing. But that's for
That
next week.
National League season, mate. That was epic.
Mate, it's sick. I've still got all of those plans, all those game plans in my phone now. So I'll read them out maybe next week, but that's for next
So
week.
all you got to do then next time you play against those people is just go. Well, actually, you retired half of them, but
Leave it for next week. Leave it for next week.
yeah.
We've got
Anyway,
so much content. Right, well, we're on to the court section. Week number three. Three courts? No, four? Four. Week four, yeah. Of course. And we are on to Seacourt, the court by the sea. I'm joking. I just wanted to see your reaction there.
that is brilliant. Do you know what? I don't think I've ever heard someone say that so nonchalantly. That was
Yeah, but
fantastic.
I just slipped it in there to see what you'd be like. It's not called Seacourt because of that.
Right, but I mean, why isn't it? I don't know why it's called Seacourt.
There's actually a place called Seacourt in Oxford, but yeah,
There
well,
is. You're absolutely right.
yeah,
Well, why isn't it? Probably is called Seacourt because it's caught by the sea.
well, it definitely is by the sea. But yeah,
Well, yes. In which case, I'm very interested to know if it's not called Seacourt because it's the court by the sea.
yeah.
Then there's obviously a massive coincidence somewhere. So I want to know why it is called Seacourt.
Well, yeah, it's whatever it is. It's a pretty cool club. I mean, it's got a rackets court.
Multi-sport.
It's got reelers. It's got squash. Got lawn tennis. It's got gym. Got a bar. And it's got paddle tennis, I suppose, on the rackets court, which is pretty awesome.
Badminton on the rackets court.
Yeah, badminton. Yeah, it's got a beach.
Table tennis. I think yeah.
It's got a beach. I personally love Seacourt. I absolutely love Seacourt. This summer I'd have probably gone down.
It's a great little setup.
Mate, I love Seacourt. It's so good.
I mean, it's miles away from everywhere, obviously.
Yeah.
And you need like a passport to get in. But
yeah.
Yeah. The only I reckon Seacourt could look a lot better if they just gave the building a paint job.
Yeah, it does look a bit old-fashioned from the outside, doesn't
Like
it?
literally, you drive past and it looks like it's 1978. But
Probably
once you go in the door, like the setup there is great. Like you walk down past the court, and
Yeah.
you'll see the squash courts to the right, and the bars like overlooking the court and everything. Like it's not the biggest place in the world, but like
Yeah.
they use the space well.
It's got quite an American vibe, doesn't it?
The layout is just, I think, is great because
Yeah.
you can basically sit down and have some lunch, and you've got viewing onto the court and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's mint.
it's laid out in a very, very good way.
And what else about it? Yeah, it's on Hayling Island, which is I think the third or fourth most populated island in the country. There we go. Bit of trivia for you. What are the top two? What are the top three most populated islands in England?
Well, number one is Portsea.
Correct. No, it's not. It's Isle of Wight. Isle of Wight.
No, it's not.
Yeah, you are actually right. I know Portsea's in the top three, and I think it is top. Yeah, carry on.
I'm telling you, it's top.
Yeah. Fine. Sorry, I got it wrong. Isle of Wight's two.
Is it? Is that a definite?
I went on Wikipedia the other day, and I was just searching it. Yeah.
Right. Portsea is definitely Portsea obviously is basically Portland.
Yeah.
Sorry, Portsmouth.
Portsmouth, yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
So it's going to be one of the most populated.
I think the Isle of Sheppey is third in Kent. I think.
Is it?
Yeah, and I think Haling's 4th. I think.
I'm trying to look at it now while
Portland is an
while
island though. I think.
Anyway.
But yeah. What about Seacourt? What about the court?
Seacourt as a court. I love that court.
Saying I think it's a sick court. I think it's
love
a genuinely mega
very,
court.
Like similar to kind of Canford in that it's just quick. Like it's really true. The ball just kind of like carries a long way, so it's always like it gets to you. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to do too much work like chasing after it off the floor and stuff. You know it's going to carry through, and it's just it's a lovely place to play.
It's a well court. I really like Seacourt. I think it's one of the nicest ones you can play at.
Lovely place to play. It's quite. The ceiling's low.
Very low, yeah. You get a lot of balls going out.
Very easy to hit the ball out there.
Especially off the penthouse as well. If you just hit a force too high, it'll go out.
Oh, out 100%.
Bang.
It's very, very easy to hit the ball out there because of the ceiling. So it does promote a lot more kind of a classical style of play. The penthouse is very quick. Like it's very I would call it slippery. So as the ball like hits the penthouse, it skids forward. It skids on like quite quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was thinking that because it's good for like a railroad or a sidewall serve.
So if you were to, you wouldn't be able to serve a high serve there because you couldn't get the angle, and you're going to get people going like, "Yes, you can." You're like, "Yes, you can," but everything needs to go considerably. You need to get a lot more things right for it to be good there than you do somewhere like Paris, for example. So it's difficult to serve a high serve there. Because of the height, you can't really get the like steepness of the trajectory of the ball coming down. But also, when it hits the penthouse, it tends to skid on, and like a penthouse that is a lot more grippy and checks is easier to serve a high serve on because you can chuck it in there a lot deeper. Yeah. So it doesn't lend itself to high serves very well. It does rip down off the back wall. So if you can, it's very, very simple to describe Seacourt, isn't it? Because you can see a Seacourt player a mile away.
Yeah, you actually can.
They all serve sidewall serves, and everybody on return a serve just hits the ball into the forehand corner. Probably why you play so well there, because that forehand corner is your BITCH.
Yeah, I know, genuinely. It's a weird. I'd say it's a generalisation, but I think the correct thing is they use the forehand corner a lot more. Which actually you wouldn't somewhere else.
But if you're on a court where the ball is going to cut down and help you out, then you can, compared to other courts, you can utilise that forehand corner more, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people think Seacourt, like nothing comes back, it just cuts down. It doesn't really.
No,
like you can get stuff back off the back wall. You just need to time it. Like it's fairly true.
And when people kind of go, "Oh, my court like so cut, so you can't get anything back off the back wall,"
you can
try and use that as a plus point. I'm like, well, no, that's a terrible court then. Like if you can't get anything back off the back wall, that's a bad court.
Yeah.
So Seacourt, you can get stuff back off the back wall, and that's what makes it's difficult, and you don't have much time to do it, and you've really got to pick how much spin the ball's got on it. But that's what makes it so good.
It's nice. I think the area underneath the grill as well. You get a lot of winners like flat back wall underneath the grill. It just sort of nicks. Yeah. It sort of nicks out under there, which I like because that's
going to roll out.
That's useful for me as a player. I mean, when I played that, I've had a lot of winners just underneath the grill. Because obviously, if you misread it by that split second, they won't be quick enough to get it back.
Oh yeah,
you see what I mean?
Just toast. You're in all kinds of trouble.
Great phrase, that toast. If you misread the ball at Seacourt, you're pretty finished.
It's pretty in terms of like colour scheme and stuff. It's pretty basic when it comes to real tennis, isn't it? The floor is quite kind of natural. It's kind of a slightly like burnt orangey, browny, but like quite faded, so it doesn't stand out too much.
Yeah.
The walls are kind of black, but like faded, obviously, just old.
Yeah.
Very just a nice place to be, isn't it?
It's a really nice court and nice.
What colour? What can you remember? Bit of a test for you. Can you remember the like what colour the lines are and stuff?
Blue, maybe.
Incorrect.
Go on then. What colour?
Green.
Oh yeah, true. I can see the contrast because I've got that you are correct.
They're all that kind of like the same kind of green that used to be at Leamington actually. So they stick out quite well on the kind of browny burnt orange floor. I don't know what colour you'd call that, but
green. Yeah, I don't know. It's a nice place. So obviously they've got the Seacourt silver racket, which is their the main
flagship
event,
event.
which obviously, I don't know, it's not necessarily a controversial statement. It's not necessarily as big as it used to be in terms of who enters.
Well, I don't think that's controversial. I think that's just
I know it's a shame, really, because obviously we went down there in 2017, but I mean, the one thing which needs to change about that tournament is, I mean, I know this is gonna, a lot of people are gonna hate this if you're from Seacourt, but I'm never gonna play that tournament with where it is in the calendar if it's near like the amateur singles or another tournament which could affect my handicap as a player whose seeding is dependent on handicap. Because if I lose a 1.2 to some bandit, I mean, I'm just gonna get seeded out of a draw, aren't I? I mean,
Do you know what? So I think the thing is, right. I think the thing is, people deem a tournament to be like how competitive and serious and how like prestigious it is based on like the handicap and stuff, and the fact that you can get big handicap movements as a result of it and stuff like that. Now, I've not played in the silver racket for the last couple of years purely because we have our big Leamington Open singles, and it happens to have been the same. Well, in fact, last year I was getting married, and that's why I couldn't play. So they moved it.
oh yeah, they moved it because of your stag as well. You single-handedly changed the calendar.
That's why they moved it because the stag. Well, because obviously there's quite a few people coming to the stag, so that count. Anyway, but it tends to be on the same weekend as like our major national singles competition here, which is why I can't normally play the silver racket. If the dates work, then I play it, because for me with the world ranking, which is what my seeding and stuff for tournament depends on, I couldn't care less what my handicap is. But I completely agree that, with the amateur singles being like 3 weeks afterwards, it's just way too risky for someone. Like, let's say you're the number 3 seed for the British Amateur, you turn up and get a bit of a stinker of a draw, and you're 1.2 worse, and you end up dropping out to like the number 5 spot. You could play number 1 in the quarters.
That's so dangerous as well. That's
dangerous. So dangerous. So my biggest thing, far be it from me to try and change the world, my biggest thing for the silver racket would just be, don't put the results in.
I'd play every time if they didn't put the results in.
People are still going to go down and take it seriously because they want to win it.
I'd go out. I'd go for a night out. It doesn't really matter if you lose.
Well, because what they've started to do is in the last few years is they've started to penalise home-based players. Right, they've made them 2 points better or something like that. So all that does is it gives the travelling player an advantage in terms of the fact that the other person's having to play 2 points better than their handicap, but it immediately puts them at a disadvantage when it comes to putting the result into RTO.
Yeah.
Because RTO now says you should win this. So if for whatever reason they don't, it's a guaranteed big loss.
Yeah.
So my thing, what I would like to see with like that tournament, because I'm not going to say it's not prestigious at all, but it's much more, it's a handicap event, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not a major event. It's a great, fun tournament that has a very rich history and a very good honours board.
Very good.
I mean, the honours board in terms of handicap has got weaker as the years have gone on. But I think that's because like styles of play have meant that it's very, very hard for the plus players to make a dent into that tournament. Just don't put the results in. People are still going to take it seriously. It's still going to be as prestigious as it was.
Yeah.
Just be like, right. I know, Rob went down and played in it this year. I'm sure. Not again. The handicap doesn't mean anything to me, but if you weren't putting results in, you might get people like Ed Kay, Jamie Giddens, like Jamie Douglas might come down to it. Do you know what I mean?
Not that far, yeah, no. Yeah.
Low single-figure amateur players.
Because it's like a weekend. It's a weekend
for that tournament to have those guys in.
It's a weekend tournament, so it's anyone in theory is eligible. I reckon
it's just that Friday.
Ed would go. I reckon those guys would go if it was if it didn't affect the amateur seeding, for example.
It's just a bit too. Yeah, it's just a bit too like risky, I think. So
anyway.
In fact, what we do for the Leamington singles is if you're under 20, your results for that weekend don't go in, because if you're under 20, you're probably going to enter the British Amateur, in which case we don't want your handicap to be affected because you've turned up and been thrashed 5-1 by 3 bandits.
Yeah, it's happened to me.
So we just don't put the results in for someone better than 20.
I know. It's a good way
to encourage them to play, right? You basically have a free pass for the weekend.
Yeah, and a free bar. Nat. So right, let's think of some good names who've come from Seacourt. Then we'll play. I'd propose a game of.
In terms of if there was ever a club that has turned out the most number of pros, it's got to be Seacourt.
Yeah, Drew Lyons,
They're
Bryn,
flying out of that place.
Lewis Gordon,
John Dawes, Lewis Gordon, Conor Medlow, Josh Dodgson,
Mark Senior.
Dan Jones, Adam Player.
Oh, Danny, yeah. Peter Dawes.
Tom Weaver was there.
Tom Weaver.
Oh, blimey. I mean, we're probably missing so many people here.
Fucking hell, yeah. Probably.
It's just a massive...
Some good names. Danby's. Alex and Jess Garside.
There's just a whole... they have had such a good junior system that they've just... the conveyor belt of players into the game has been great.
Aaron Flippants. Yeah, true. An amazing production line of players.
Who's Drew got down there at the moment?
Will Flynn.
There we go. Sorry, I'd had a complete mind blank there. Of course, it's Will Flynn.
The semi-pro.
And then you've got like the Shamateur.
Yeah, I know. We'll see what happens there. But Drew, what a player.
He must be living the dream, right? He's able to like be a full pro, but play in amateur tournaments. That's the dream.
I know it is. Yeah, lots of tournaments on at the moment. But yeah,
I'd love to be able to play in the British Amateur.
Mate, you'll be a waste of time for you.
I don't know about
that. Yeah, I know. Get your name in paint. Well, so we can rank Seacourt perhaps. Where are we putting Seacourt?
Oh, in terms of like playing.
Yeah.
Top third for me.
Yeah, top third, mate. I'd say Seacourt's top 5 for me.
Well, we'll find out at the end.
Yeah, we will. I love Seacourt, and I played one tournament there and played quite well. It suits my game. It really does suit my game, and I love it.
I've made the final of the Silver Racket twice. Here's a good stat for you. I've made the final of the Seacourt Silver Racket twice, and I have not in the finals. I have not accumulated enough games through both matches to even win a set.
Nice.
Yeah. 2 absolute whippings.
Oh well, at least you made a final. I made a final. No, I didn't win enough games to make a set as well. So.
Who beat you in the final?
Rodders. Lewis Gordon. Which was cool tournament. But definitely Seacourt has got to be top 5. Both a great court. And I've got one piece of trivia for you before we end this podcast.
Go on.
So basically, in 1999, James Mayle won the British Open Reelers and the British Open Rackets, and that is in the last. That's only 21 years ago. Someone won the rackets and tennis British Open. That is sick. I think Stow did the same in 2012 with the US Open. With the US Open.
Yeah, well, whenever he won, well,
he might have won.
I'm assuming the year that he won the
US Open.
No, it was 2010. He won the US Open Reelers.
Yeah, he was world champion in 2010, so I think he would have won the US Open Rackets as well.
I would imagine he would have won the US Open Rackets, yeah.
And I think those two things are really overlooked. Someone winning an Open in both disciplines. And I read that this week, which I want to end the podcast on because I think no one actually. That's not even. People aren't like, oh fucking hell, that happened. But I mean, can you imagine that?
That is an absolute monster effort. Like. People think because the games are kind of linked and they've got they're like sister sports because they've got the same governing body, and a lot of people kind of play both. To be very good at both, like good enough to win an Open in both, is absolutely ridiculous.
In the same year,
I'm obviously exactly. Well, to win both at any point in your career is absolutely insane, but to win in the same year is incredible. Like my rackets is absolutely appalling.
You've beaten the world champion though, but that's a different story.
Side note, have beaten Stout, but that's not the point.
Exactly, for coin.
The stakes were like weighted in my favour, shall we say?
But yeah, that was what I found out this week. I was like, fucking hell, 1999, and that happened. But yeah, pretty cool. Right, what you got on? Well, you've told me what you got on the rest of today.
I don't really know what to do. I mean, it's hotter than the sun in this place. Like I'm actually sat in the bedroom.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like 25 degrees.
Closed. Like the shutters are closed, so it's 25 degrees in the flat at the moment.
Yeah.
And that is with the windows open, the heating off, and the fan on.
Fair. And the dog breathing on you for air.
So basically, I guess the plan today is try to, within the confines of the current government guidelines, not be in the flat as much as possible today.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Just go and burn outside instead.
No, that's ideal. I'm honestly, my gym regime is ideal at the moment. I'm curling more than I was at the start of lockdown. I'm probably curling. I'm probably curling 16s on the biceps now. So it's
Sets of
obviously
how many?
4 sets of 10.
4 sets of 10.
I know that's improving. Nice.
Is that 1 arm at a time? Which you got the full like lean on, like the proper gym shark, or like
Yeah. So
is that 2 dumbbells at
yes,
the same time?
single arm behind your back to keep your form, and I'm doing my press ups with a rucksack full of books on to increase the weight, which I think is cool, and again that's helping out a lot.
Wonderful.
So that's what I'm doing the press ups today, and then
I'll tell you what you can do if you want to make press ups a lot harder as well. Is do hand release push ups.
as in dead stop, so like you put yourself to the ground.
Like when you go down, you actually take your hands off the ground for like a split second, so you don't have that like elastic
movement
power. You literally have to like push a dead weight back up. They will hurt you very quick.
Yeah, my mate actually recommended those to me, but it hurts my hands doing them off the floor. Well, maybe that's just me making excuses because they're a little bit harder and I want to cut corners, and we don't cut corners, Ben.
We don't cut corners.
No, but no. Looking forward to next week's podcast. Looking like we're going to be in here for another 3 weeks. I am going to come to Leamington in June because I need to unpack my uni room. So we'll hit some balls in June somehow.
If we can, we'll be out in the park.
Yeah, just get a ball. We'll just play some swing balls,
play some badminton or something over a tree.
Yeah, perfect. Oh my god! But yeah, so next week will be fun. But until then, I hope your room cools down, Ben.
Well, thank you very much. Nice to speak to you, and catch up soon. And let me know when the chain arrives.
Oh, absolutely.